Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's community group, Freedom Thinking Community Group. The date is the 3rd of March, 2025. Christmas is definitely on its way. Anyway, so welcome, everyone. This is a via donation event. Via donation means if you listen in and you like it and you're gaining benefit from it, please consider making a donation to Jenny and my own work. Thank you to those who do donate. So greatly appreciated. It really, really is. It really helps us out. We're in the process of trying to get somewhere to live. So yeah, all the donations are really helping us out right now. So thank you so much. Some of you donate every week, so thank you so much. And some of you make donations sporadically. Thank you so much. It's so greatly appreciated. Just remember one sec. Haley's trying to get in. Everybody else has managed to get on. Sorry, everyone, one sec.
Was it a passcode ending in 40?
I can't tell you. Was it a passcode ending in 40? Do people remember? Yeah, Angie's nodding. Yeah, so yeah, all donations are so greatly appreciated. If you wish to make a donation, the donation, and you're watching this in the catch up on YouTube, donation information will be in the description below. But it is, if you want to do it via PayPal, which is what most people do, it's info@freedomthinking.co.uk. That's how you can make. So go to PayPal. Who do you want to pay? info@freedomthinking.co.uk, and then type 1000000. We'll stop there. 100,000. Fine. Haley's just coming in. Yeah, just so greatly appreciated everybody who donates. Thank you so much. If you're watching this on catch up, which I know a lot of people do, and you want us to talk about a topic, please drop us a message, drop us a comment, drop us an email. You can email us at info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Our crappy website is freedomthinking.co.uk. Yeah, and please like, subscribe, and what's the other one? Like, subscribe, and follow.
And comment.
And comment. Thanks, Dan.
Commenting on YouTube is really good for the algorithm.
Yeah, please comment. Please send us your comments. You know, we got a beautiful email this week from a beautiful lady just saying how much these have changed her life. And, you know, it's lovely for us to get that feedback. It's lovely for us to know that we're going in the right direction. And people are hearing, you know, we chuck this stuff out. There's people who come online most weeks. They're here, they're present. We get to speak to them, but then there's people who watch from, as she describes it, from the shadows. And it's lovely when we get the feedback. It's just lovely to know that we're being heard. So thank you, everybody, for all your comments, all your likes, all your subscriptions. And I think that's about it. Other than Jen and I are personally here, we do work with individuals, couples, and all kinds of people. We've worked globally, we've worked all over the world with all kinds of demographics of people, and we've seen people wake up. We see people wake up. And if you are somebody who wants to have a change in your life, come and see us. Come and see us. Come and work with us personally. Come and get in touch. We do, you know, we're pretty accommodating people. We try and work with people to help them out. So if you're struggling financially, talk to us. Just talk to us. We can figure something out. That's what we're about. That is what we are about. So yeah, we're going to make a start. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming tonight, everyone. So much love. It's been a bit of a bonkers day for us. We've been looking at places we're potentially going to go and bring home. We're looking for something to live in, where we can have our own space and stuff. The time has come. The traveling is going to start quietening down. Jen has said, I think I want to settle down more in the Lake District. So we'll probably be settling down a little bit more in the Lake District. She's got a lot of friends up here. Lucia's got a lot of friends up here. There's a lot of kind of forest schooly kind of things that we want to get her involved in. We've got the lakes, we've got the camping, we've got our lifestyle up here, the kind of lifestyle that we like. We go open water swimming and fell walking and mountain biking, all that kind of stuff. But we will still be going down south and doing our traveling. So we're trying to get something that we don't have to have a mortgage on, we don't have to pay rent on. Something that fits our kind of hippie lifestyle, kind of out of the system hippie lifestyle. It's not everybody's life, but it's what we're kind of trying to build. So yeah, any donations that come, so greatly received. So this evening, I really just wanted to start. I was reflecting on where do we want to start this evening? You know, quite often we start by opening this up, but I just wanted to speak to something that came to me. You know, it's nothing new. And I hope really it's the essence of our conversations. But I just wanted to talk about how easy it is to complicate this life. And as we complicate it, it becomes more and more complicated. Or should I say it appears more and more complicated. I'll move this way. My guest speaker's coming once Lucy is asleep. So I was saying that could be 30 seconds. It could be 30 minutes. We just do not know. When Jen comes, it'll be nice to have her sat next to me. Yeah, it's so easy for us to overcomplicate this life. And it's in this overcomplication that our human beings really start to suffer. You know, we're not built from suffering. Our essence isn't one of suffering. That's not our essence. Our essence is one of infinite potential. And it doesn't matter who you are. Your essence is infinite potential. And also there are potentials beyond this kind of current human experience that are available to us. And in keeping it simple, I'm going to probably graze that topic. I won't cut too far into it, but I'll probably graze that topic a little bit. You know, the thing that really changed my life when I look back was the realization how simple it actually all is. I was somebody who'd complicated my life ridiculously by kind of doing the opposite of what I'm doing now, which was I lived with that kind of old school societal belief that, you know, you had to become a somebody and you have to prove yourself and you have to be a certain way and you have to kind of make your way in this world, you know, and you have to progress. Everything's about progress and it's all about getting a bigger house. It was all about getting a bigger car. It was always about being the best. You know, I'm proving it to people and proving it to people. And it was all about my ego. Now I'm kind of, I won't say I'm egoless by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, I learned a lot through that experience. But the discovery of the simplicity of life was the thing that never left. I've looked in so many different directions since I woke up. Because I became interested. I became interested in life. I became interested in spirit. For anybody watching this who suddenly felt put off by that word, I apologize. It's just a word. It's just a word to describe consciousness. It's just a word to describe the energy that lives, that we are. It's just another word to describe it. If you prefer those other words, use them. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't care. It doesn't judge. It doesn't measure. It has no opinion. But to discover that ultimately the simplicity of life never goes anywhere. It's just that we overcomplicate life by thinking, oh, it must work somehow a bit different to this. Now, obviously, this depends on what you see. This depends on to the depth that you realize. And I know personally, I know for my personal self, there's so much more I can see. There's so much depth to this life that I have just grazed. And that was the thing that kind of, when I woke up, that was one of the most beautiful realizations, was that I've just discovered something within myself that I know lies at the heart of all people. And what lay at the heart of myself was the most beautiful thing. And it was only in discovering that self, that aspect, that perfect self, which never actually goes anywhere. I was going to read you something I wrote the other day. Now I've just said those words. Spare me 1 second. This was after a conversation with somebody. Finding the higher part of ourselves isn't the difficult thing. This is because we are the highest part of ourselves in all times. However, the difficulty appears because we lose sight of this and then believe we are that we created. Creations from the higher self. That is the only thing that ever created anything, and the only part that actually has the power to create. It was when I discovered that part, that creator aspect of myself. And all it was a noticing that I am creating. I created depression. I created my anxieties. I created my worries. I created my, I'm not good enough, I need to prove myself. I dreamt it all. I created it with my own mind. And all of a sudden, life made sense. It was like a light bulb went on, and I'm like, I've done all of this to myself. I couldn't blame anybody else. I couldn't blame my past. I couldn't blame my parents. Suddenly, the responsibility lay firmly on my shoulders. And you know what? My shoulders were broad enough to take it because I discovered the truth. It wasn't like a weight when I discovered the truth, that this awakening kind of put all the kind of experiences I'd ever experienced on my shoulders. Nobody else to carry them. I created them. It wasn't like that was a burden. It was the most liberating thing. It was total liberation. I created all my own stress. I remember listening to Sydney Banks as he spoke about separate realities. How he spoke about how everybody on earth literally sees an entirely unique expression of life, an entirely unique expression of reality. That made so much sense. That put so much of life into perspective. It allowed me to see that, well, if that's true, then my reality cannot be the truth. Otherwise, everybody would see my reality Everybody would see the world the way I see it. They'd have the same opinions. They would think I'm broken too. They'd have to. They would have to think I'm not good enough. They would have to see all my flaws. But I used to find it bullshit when I used to speak to people and they'd say, Dave, what are you talking about? And I'd be like, you're mad. There's something wrong with you. Or perhaps there's something wrong with me because I'm not seeing it. It was so much easier for me to kind of to blame myself because I'm not good enough. Because I'm not good enough. And when I looked for the reasons why I wasn't good enough, it was all kinds of things. I wasn't big enough. I was built like a brick shithouse, but I wasn't big enough. It's really interesting to this day. I pick up an item of clothing and I'll go, yeah, Jen, she goes, you won't get that on. I'm like, yeah, well, take it to the dressing room, try it, put it on. I'm like, oh God, it's a bit tight, isn't it? I grew up thinking I was small because I felt small inside. To this day, I still have carry that kind of image of myself. I don't realize like I'm 6 foot and fairly broad, but I was a lot bigger back then. But I still wasn't big enough. Why? Because I didn't feel big inside. And I didn't feel strong enough in this life. So I used to try and make myself stronger. I used to go to the gym and try and be the best this, best that. I never wanted to tell people that because I just wanted them to think that. I wanted to think that I was the best like tree surgeon or whatever. Best mate, best friend, somebody dead reliable. They could depend on Dave, but don't cross him. He's hard as nails. And all this was stemming from the idea that I wasn't good enough and I wanted to be loved and admired. I wanted people to notice me and admire me and like me. I had a lot of friends, really, but I wanted them to love me because I didn't love myself. I'd never discovered the capacity to love myself. And I never actually realized the implications of loving myself, or even just allowing myself to even consider that I could possibly love myself. When I woke up, for the first time I can remember, I stood there in love with myself. 1 second. Hiya, Dave. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, Dave. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Yeah.
Good,
Yep.
good man. Good man.
I'm just going to disappear because kettle's boiling. I'll be
You
back.
do that. That's essential.
It's got to be. Got to have it.
I've got mine here. For the first time in my life, I remember saying to myself, after all the heartache and pain I'd caused people, after all the stupidity I'd lived out of, I remember saying to myself, Dave, you're a good man. I said it out loud. Stood on the side of a fell all by myself, apart from Rusty in the van. Dave, you're a good man. And I meant it. I remember crying my eyes out at that. At the relief of discovering that the scariest man I ever met was a good man. Realizing that the only reason that I behaved like I behaved and I carried those ideas and beliefs was because I was insecure. I was insecure. Now I could trace this back. I could go, all right, well, what was the source of that? Do you know what? I would say that probably started, in all honesty, when I was at school and I was a late developer. And all the other big lads, well, they looked safe. They were bigger than me, and they got beards and shit and they looked like men, and I didn't. I looked like a backstreet boy till I was about 30 when they were young. And perhaps it started then, but I never once updated myself. I never came to the moment. I never found myself present in the moment to realize the stories that I'd just idly been living out of. And it was in the discovery of how simple life is, was the discovery that, as Sid Banks told us, he said, it's all a thought. Your whole reality is created from thought. Your whole experience of life is created from thought. Am I pausing, everybody? Am I breaking up? No, cool. Our whole experience of life is a perspective. Now, some of these perspectives show up looking like they're more true and real than other perspectives. But no matter what the perspective is, it's all created from the same source. This power of thought, this infinite, creative, malleable, potential-filled energy that has no form until it takes form in the form of a thought, an idea, a perspective, a belief, an idea. And from thought comes all our feelings, all our actions, all our behaviors. Working with addicts over the years, some of them have found it quite a long stretch to the idea that addiction isn't something that is actually isn't actually a substance, or it's not a behavior, it's actually a thought. That's quite confrontational to some people. I used to work in a 12-step charity called User Voice. I used to go into prisons and talk in prisons. And I used to go and sit on 12-step meetings, and I've got respect for the steps. But I used to find it quite difficult when I'd hear people talking about a disease. And I'd be saying to them, but you haven't got a disease. You think you've got a disease. You believe you've got a disease. And like Jesus Christ said, it's done unto you as you believe. How you believe is the reality that you will experience as your reality. That's your gift. You are gifted with the capacity to create reality. You are gifted with the capacity to create your own dream of life. It's the only thing we're ever experiencing. And right now you are creating the dream of a victim. That's what I did. I did that for much of my adult life until I woke up and realized the only thing I'm a victim of is a misunderstanding about reality. I thought reality that I experienced was something outside of myself. But there was this part of me that kind of knew that didn't make sense. But I could never find it. I could never find what that was. What is it? There's something that's not tallying up, like deep down within my being. I knew there was something that's not tallying up here. Something not tallying up. You see, I think that's why people get so pissed off when they start feeling pissed off. Because deep down inside of themselves, they know that there is another way of being. The beautiful thing about that other way of being is it doesn't go anywhere. It's who and what we truly are. Anybody who has an enlightening experience will discover this force that you call love. They will talk about love. They would never say to you, do you know what this entire universe is made of? What's it made of? Fear. This whole entire universe is a state of anxiety. I've never read that. I've never heard anybody with any wisdom ever say that. but they'll talk about love. They will talk about something that mankind did not invent. Because mankind did not invent mankind. They will talk about a force that precedes mankind. It's a force of unification. It unifies the divided mind. What is the divided mind? The divided mind is one that thinks there is something other than love. It's the duality of life. It's the illusionary experiences that we create, which are of what you may call the negative frequencies. Fear, anxiety, depression, jealousy, envy, all the 7 deadly sins, all that kind of thing. But the unified mind discovers love. And when that unified mind discovers love, it discovers a love so pristine, it surpasses anything they've ever experienced on this earthly plane. And what they're truly experiencing is what you call life. Life itself before creation has been dreamt. Life itself before any experience, any idea of a separate individual, before a story of Dave. Life. And they will come back and they will say there is a spiritual thing behind this life. This life is a spiritual experience. And many people are striving to find their spiritual self. The spiritual self was never lost. It never went anywhere. It's only because of the spiritual self can we possibly even dream up the concept that it's gone somewhere, that we're not it. You take away that creative aspect, you take away that creator, and how could you possibly have the experience that you are something other than spirit? That would be impossible. That doesn't exist. That potential does not exist. The potential you can dream that you are not spirit, absolutely, that exists because that's within the infinite. But there's one thing that isn't within the infinite, and that is the capacity to dream. There's one thing that comes before the infinite, and that is the capacity to dream. That is what the infinite is born from. One. Infinity and one are really the same number in this respect. The simplicity of life is so simple. And it doesn't matter where we go. It doesn't matter how lost we get. Like that little voice spoke to me a couple of years ago. The further into suffering you go, the further into unreality you have entered. The further into suffering you go, the further into unreality you have entered. You have created a reality that is so opposed, but not in a warlike sense, but so different to who you really are. And it feels like crap. It's kind of a wake up, like a little shake. Here, you're lost. Notice. I was a man who thought they were broken. I was told I was broken. I was told I'd have chronic depression for life. I was told that by professionals in them. They were so wrong, thankfully. And they are so wrong when they say that, thankfully. You know, there's me grazing a topic like I said I would. There's a really interesting talk. I've been sent it a few times. Jen's listened to it, and a few of my friends have sent me it because I know I'm interested in this kind of thing. I forget what it's called. Is it called? I'll tell you now, just so you know. But it's about autistic kids. And these autistic kids are the autistic kids that are mute. They don't speak. It's called sorry, my apologies, the telepathy tapes. It's called. The telepathytapes.com is where you can find it. And they don't speak. They're what society may look at and go, oh, there's something deeply wrong with these children. But it turns out what's happening is they read each other's minds, and they can read their parents' minds, and they can read the minds of their carers. And some of these carers have started to notice that they think something, all of a sudden the kid goes and does it. And these kids, I can't remember the ins and outs because I haven't listened too much, but the bit that I did listen to, they were saying that they meet. They're like a group of people who meet on what they call the hill. And they talk, they communicate, they have conversations about what they're going to do and where they're going next and this kind of thing. You know, who and what we are is not the story we think about ourselves. That's just a story. Who and what we are. If you look at what your story is, it's your past. It's called a story for a reason, because it's something that's happened. Who and what we are isn't a story. That's something from the past. You're not the past. You're the now. You've never once left the now. You are the now. We are the now. People who discover the now have a spiritual experience. Well, what is the now? The now is the true self. It's just another word to describe the true self. It's a state of presence. The now is a state of consciousness. It's a state of awareness. It's got nothing to do with time. Time doesn't exist, so the now has nothing to do with time because it doesn't exist. You live as the eternal now. We live as the eternal now. Now, this eternal now has powers that have been, up until fairly recently, not accepted by much of science and stuff like that. But now more and more scientists are becoming interested, and they're studying things like near-death experience. They're studying these autistic kids who have the capacity to read the minds. They don't need to speak. They actually don't need to speak. They know what they need to do, and they know what's expected of them. They're on a different frequency to the majority of humanity, but they're still human. So when we're talking about the principles, when we're talking about life, we're talking about something we are slowly starting to wake up to en masse. And as we start to wake up, we're not as much as the more and more every bloody week there's a new diagnosis created for the way people think. Okay, now you take everybody with, say, I don't know, borderline, one of my favorites. I love this. God bless you if you've ever been diagnosed with this, because it sounds like the most horrible diagnosis. Borderline personality disorder. I've got this kind of borderline. I don't think I've ever met anybody with actual personality disorder, but I've met plenty of people with borderline personality. You got this kind of borderline personality disorder. You know, your personality is disordered. But you speak to all the people with borderline personality disorder, they're all very different people. They're not the same. There's all these new labels being created trying to put mankind in a box. Somehow, how the hell can we figure out the way to put mankind in a box? We got to put mankind in a box because that's what the intellect loves. We're not the intellect. The intellect is a consequence of our being. Our being is who we are. We are life itself, pure, unadulterated, infinite, unconditional love. The unified field. You know, it's interesting as we do work with people and as we start to see people waking up, it's so interesting seeing the synchronicities that suddenly start to show up in people's lives. I love seeing people's eyes light up when they start to wake up as the reality outside of themselves starts to catch up with their inner world. They realize that the outside and the inside aren't separate. The outside and the inside are one. The only world you ever get to experience is the one from within. As you dream, so you experience. But as you start to wake up, you start to use this mind in a more creative way, and all of a sudden opportunities start poking up. They were always there. They're always there as potentials. But all of a sudden, you start to get eyes for things. You start to get ears that hear. It's a wonderful thing. What people call manifestations start to take place. I remember saying, I want to go and work in prisons. Nobody was working in prisons in the UK. I want to go and work in prisons. I want to go and help these prisoners. I want to do it. How do I get in there? I can't set off all these letters. And I prayed. I just went, send me somebody, please send me somebody to get me working in prisons. And a few days later, a lady turned up lost at my drive gates on a Sunday afternoon. Normally, I'd have pissed off at the Lake District doing a fell run on a Sunday afternoon. But I hadn't because I'd been to look at a job. And then when I come back from this job, a big branch had fallen down into the road. So I went and got my chainsaw, cleaned that up for these people, got home. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, oh, well, do you know what? I'm going to wash my kit. I haven't washed my kit in like 8 years. So I'm going to wash all the crap off my vans and did all that. And all of a sudden, this lady turns up lost at my drive gates. I said, how are you doing? Kelly's been to my house. No, Wen, you haven't been to our house. But Kel, we don't live in the busiest place on the planet. And this lady turns up lost at my drive gates and said, how are you doing? She said, I'm fine. She said, but I'm a bit lost. I said, oh, really? She said, yeah. I said, oh, what are you trying to get to? She said, the gateway in. I said, I used to work there. Here, jump in my van. I'll give you a lift. I said, you're on the wrong road. She jumps in my van. She's saying to me, I feel so stupid. She said, I should have got off the train in Kendal. I've only come from Lancaster. I should have got off the train in Kendal. I've stopped on too many stops and I've got off in Staveley. I said, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. I said, you'll be there in 2 minutes. Little voice comes in my head and says, ask her what she does for a living. It's like, do you mind me asking you what you do for a living? And she said, no. She said, I've just taken a managerial role with a charity that works with the well-being of offenders. I said, I knew it. She said, what do you mean you knew it? I said, I knew it. I said, I knew it. I said, can I buy you a drink at the pub, please? I want to talk to you. I sat down with her for an hour and a half, and she just said, I want you working with me. You'll have to go for an interview. She said, there's an interview coming up next week, or was it a couple of weeks later? She said, there's an interview coming up. I want you to go for it. I want you working with me, she said. I went for this interview. 38 people turned up. I got the job. I got to go into prisons. I got to start delivering the principles in prisons. I had to do it in a very subtle way because it was a 12-step charity, but I got to share and I got to see lads waking up. I got to see, and I got these emails of lads who changed, and it was wonderful. I loved it. But life plays out and change comes because that's part of life. The soul doesn't want to have the same experience over and over again. Why would it? Why would it? Why the hell would it? People are so surprised by change. No, your being knows you cannot be destroyed. It knows you can handle everything. Because you are not the experience of suffering. You are the infinite force of love. You always have been and you always will be. There is only that. You can handle all of it. It's all experience. That's what life is. It's an experience. All of it. Happiness, joy, contentment, fulfillment, peace, anger, hatred, resentment. It's all experience. Depression, anxiety, it's all experience. It's all the same thing. All the same thing, showing up in a different way. It's like speaking. It's like music. You've got one speaker. You can play any music you wish from it. It's all music. There's the guest speaker.
Well, maybe not actually.
Oh no,
I've
why?
been having lots of coughing fits.
Oh, have you?
Been staying out.
Nightmare. Sure.
Yeah, she won't stay off.
Cool.
I fell asleep to me coughing. So
Yeah. People say there's so many different ways to enlightenment, to awakening, whatever you want to call it. Enlightenment sounds a bit grand, doesn't it? Awakening doesn't make us a shit. It's just words. There isn't. There's one. There's one way. And that's through insight. That's through revelation. That's through realization. It's always any realization that takes place from within the self, from the self. It's only because of the self the realization can take place in the first place. There is only one way. And if we get distracted by all these other means, these other complications, the details of life, I know the way, I'm going to show you the way. You come with me. Sit like this, do that. Okay, now do this, now do that, now do this. Listen to this teacher, listen to that one. No, you will only change when you realize yourself. I only change when I realize myself. It's the way it works. We change through realization, we change through revelation, we change through insight. There is only one way. Now that may be listening to reading scripture or something like that. That may be meditating. That may be going for a walk. That may be listening to this person. This may be driving. It might be listening to that talker or whatever. It's very, very easy for me to go out with Sid Banks. It wasn't Sid Banks. I changed because I heard. And when I heard, I realized. It came from me. Likewise, anybody who changes from when they've listened to Jenny or I, it hasn't come from Jenny or I, it's come from you. It came from you. You did it. You are the power to change your own life. There is only you who can change your life. There is only me who can change my life. Nobody else can change my life for me. But when life is pointed to us when life is pointed in the direction of simplicity, and our consciousness, you see, wherever we focus our attention, we have an experience. Wherever we point our consciousness, we get an experience. When we start pointing our consciousness in the direction of simplicity of life, we start to get an experience. Our experience is created from consciousness. If we go looking for everything that's wrong with this world and all the terrible people on it, and we're going to experience that. You carry a belief about people, about a certain person or a group of people or whatever. You carry a belief about them. You will see that belief, not the people. You carry that about your spouse. You will see you only get to see your beliefs about people. And then when you start to wake up, you start to let that go. Oh, shit. Wow, I've been thinking you're a such and such for quite a long time now. Wow. Once it's seen, it goes. And all of a sudden you can meet a brand new person, somebody you've known your entire life. You can meet them. You can meet them for the first time. Because the person you've been meeting was a character you invented for them. Perhaps they said something at some point and you've gone, oh, I don't like the way they said that about me. Oh, I don't like them. You've carried it through time. You've turned it into them in your mind. And then who do you meet? You meet the person from the past. You don't meet the person from the now. You see, the simplicity of life means that reality has to be created in the now. The future and past only exist in the now. They are potentials within mind. That's what they are. They are the dream. We get mesmerized by the dream, but we fail more often than not to notice the dreamer. That creates the experience. That doesn't have a name. That is ageless. That doesn't see anything other than total perfection and has zero judgment. It doesn't measure a thing. That space of infinite potential from which all experience, this very life right here, right now, is being born. This experience we're all having right now, individually, everybody having a different experience, can only exist because we exist. Because this creative self exists. This experience could not be experienced if there wasn't the creative self, the infinite creative self.
Go in the other room and join on my phone. I can have myself muted.
Are you gonna do some coffee?
Yeah.
Do you want my headphones? Okay. Jen has decided to take up smoking. It's not going well. No, she hasn't went. Sorry. Does anybody want to say anything? She better join now. When do you speak in?
Can you hear me?
Can now.
Okay. I'm always intrigued with the fact that when we talk about we create our own experience, and it's always in the framework of the negative. Like I used to, you to talk about yourself. You said, I used to think I was a bad man, or I was too small, I wasn't big enough, I was scrawny, whatever the words were. But we don't use those same words of I create my own experience in the positive. Like I just had a really good feeling that I was going to work in the prisons. And lo and behold, I met this woman. Isn't this something? Like, just in general terms in this conversation, it seems like we're always thinking in the moment. Our experience comes from thought in the moment. It always seems to be on the negative part of the spectrum of life rather than the positive. So I'm a little bit curious about that. For me, I think that if we're in the scriptures, it's called we're fearfully and wonderfully made. We are God's creatures, like you've said. We're love. We're beautifully created from from the get-go. So when we have positive, life-affirming thoughts or life-affirming experience, or things seem to be going, we're appreciating beauty around us, I think that just means, for me, it feels like I'm closer to the truth of who I am, the truth of the reality. And when I'm thinking, oh, that person doesn't like me, or this isn't going well, or now my life's going down the toilet, that I'm getting away from what I call true north, like the real deal. So anyway, that's just kind of striking me, that the concept or the words of using our mind to create our experience comes from the inside out. It always seems to be, so don't listen to it. But if I have something positive, shouldn't I listen to it? Do you know what I mean? That's just kind of like I hear a little distinction in there every once in a while that I'm curious about.
Yeah, there is only the inside out. So yeah, absolutely went. There is only the inside out. People, I mean, some people describe this as the inside out, an inside out conversation. But it doesn't mean from inside the body. We're going to go, oh, inside, okay. No, it means from inside truth. From within the truth of who and what we are, out comes an experience of reality. From the inside out. From the space from which insight emerges. So no, you're absolutely right, Wend. I think a lot of people come to this conversation because, quite honestly, I think because they're looking to have a nicer experience of life. And yeah, you're right. Quite often we can kind of have this conversation around mental health and suffering and stuff like that. I think a lot of people come to this conversation through that. And then once people start to wake up, they start to get interested. You see, it's interesting because I can talk about something and somebody hears something so different, but it can illuminate them. Because it wasn't coming from me, it was coming from them. They're hearing from within inside themselves what they need to hear. That is perfect for them. But no, you're right, love. And yeah, there is no separation in any of it. There is no, there's like a spectrum, an infinite spectrum. I often liken it to a rainbow. The colors of the rainbow, you got all these colors in a rainbow, and then you've got the ultraviolet light below, and you've got the infrared light above, and then beyond infrared, there's other spectrums of light. And so we as human beings get to see this narrow bandwidth of color. But we know because we've got measuring apparatus that can measure, and we can see that there's other light going on. That white light is ultimately infinite light spectrum. Like the number one is infinite. And so, we know that a rainbow is created from light and water. So you get all these different colors. Yeah, red, yellow. I'm going to say like the people always correct me on this, but I'm just going to do it like the song for ease. You got your red, your yellows, your pinks, your greens, your orange, your purple, and blue. And but they're all very kind of unique expressions. They all look individualized. I have my favorite colors. I could look at a rainbow and go, that's the color I really like there. That's really nice. I really like that one. I like that. But it's exactly the same thing as the other colors. It's light refracting through water, creating all these different colors that look like individualized things. When it's really just one thing, it's light. And so, when you look at that and you start to take that spectrum and you place it within the being of a person, it's like you look at this from now rather than from a water rain kind of meteorological perspective, you start to look at it from a psychological or a spiritual perspective. You then place this spectrum within yourself. You realize that, well, if red is love and the blue is fear, then it's all being created rather than through light and water. It's being created through the light of our consciousness and the power of thought. As we think, so we feel. You think an optimistic thought, you're going to feel optimistic in your life. And really, there's nothing to be pessimistic about at all, ever. So an optimistic thought, you're absolutely right, Wendy, is closer to the truth of who and what we are. We have the capacity to get closer to truth or create the impression we're further away from it, which you never are. It's impossible to be far away from it because there is no distance within it. There's no distance. It doesn't exist in the realms of the physical and the measurable. It's immeasurable. It's immeasurable because it's singular. There's nothing to compare it to. There's no measurement available to measure it. It's all things at all time. The now. So it's like I quite like drawing the diagram of the rainbow and helping people realize that whatever they're and those colors are like our feeling states. They're like our states of being. Green, you may go, oh, well, that's kind of a bit of anxiety. That orange may be a bit of, I feel a bit flat today. Yellow may be, oh, come on today, what we're going to do. Red may be kind of, oh, this is awesome. Ultraviolet could be the deepest experience of love. And infrared and ultraviolet could be the deepest experience of fear, that point where you reach, not in the everyday experience, but every now and again throughout a lifetime, a human being may reach a state of being where it feels so impossible to even consider that they could actually have anything close to something like a nice life. We all experience that, or majority of us experience that throughout our lifetime at some point. It's usually when we go to the doctors because we think there's something wrong with us. There isn't anything wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with us. We are experiencing color of the rainbow. We're experiencing an experience of the spectrum of being. But it's all born of the same thing. That creates the happiness and joy is that creates the suffering. It's mind, it's consciousness, it's thought. Totally agree.
How you were saying before about you're saying in your conversations with people, you say whatever, this block of words, and somebody says, oh wow, that just really hit me and I got something really wonderful from it. You're like, that's because it hit some truth spot inside of them, and that's what came forward for them. But it's not necessarily what you were talking about. And I feel like I just had that experience myself in listening to you, because all of a sudden I was like, yeah, there isn't a person in the world, the most mentally healthy person in the world that I know, the person with the greatest amount of equanimity and peace of mind and joy would benefit from hearing about the inside out nature of life. It's not just for those in prison or those with mental health issues or those who are. So that was like, wow. I haven't, because I mean I haven't, but I would say for the most part I think about this as my heat-seeking device is looking for people who are biting their fingernails or feeling worried or concerned or living a smaller life because of their anxiety or something or their depression. And that's where I go, oh, that's a place where the principles could really help. But is there a place where they couldn't? No.
I've never found one, love. If I'm honest, I remember
What's that?
I've never found one. But what you're saying, It's often the people who are having a nice life that find it easier to hear because they don't have an idea that they need to fix something. Because quite often people come to this conversation trying to fix something. And as long as they believe they need to fix something, they're busy listening for how to fix it. They're not listening. But quite often it's just the people who are just kind of minding their own business, got nothing on the mind, that hear. It's not to say people who come with problems can't hear, you know, when people come and, but we generally ask if somebody comes and works with us, they come and spend 4 days with us. Because usually when somebody is coming to work with us, they're having a hard time. But we ask them to come and spend 4 days with us. Come and spend 4 days with us because we know day one, they won't be listening. Day one, they'll probably be arguing, wondering what the hell we're talking about, why we even came. Day two will probably be something quite similar. We expect this. This is kind of just what we expect. Day three, people have kind of resigned themselves to the fact they're here for 4 days. That resignation seems to bring about a listening. And when people start to listen, then they can hear. Day three is usually where we see the change. It's usually where we see this. Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Day four is usually the day they walk in and they're smiling and they're thankful. And then we tend to do 5 follow-up calls, like for an hour beyond that. And we get to listen to how much things have changed for them. But we do it over 4 days because people have such busy minds they can't hear. Their suffering is created from busy thoughts. Busy minds. Busy mind is stress. That's what stress is. It's a busy mind. That's all stress is a busy mind. Your mind quietens down, there is no stress. When the mind quietens down, there's no mental illness. But sometimes it takes a wee while for that to happen. So when people come work with us, we encourage them to come and spend 4 days with us. And we take them out. I mean, what do we do, Jen? We take them up the lakes. I mean, Jenny and I love a coffee. So we take them to a nice coffee shop somewhere and we go for walks and stuff like that. Is there anybody who's done an intensive on here with us? There's a couple of people who've been to do retreats with us and stuff like that. But yeah, we try and take them out, you know, and just help them have a nice time. Because you don't find your way out of suffering through bringing suffering to mind. You find your way out of suffering through relaxing, through enjoying yourself, through having a nice time. That's how you find your way out of suffering. It's simple logic. It's common sense. And so, yeah, I was going to say something else. I thought, don't forget to say that. You're going to go off on a tangent now, Dave. Now, don't forget to say this point. But I've forgotten. That's the nature of mind. Wen, is there anything else you want to say to that before I go to Dan? Cool. Thanks, love. Daniel-san.
I was just gonna say that I'm not too sure where it was that sort of like turned on this spiral of thought that I've just had about that, but I'm not too sure why it come up like this. But I think one of the things that's helped me recently is knowing that regardless of whatever thought you have or whatever physical feeling that you have that might bring on a thought that's uncomfortable, in the grand scheme of things, when I look when I look back now, nothing's the thing that scared me was the fact of thinking things are going to get worse than what they are, or for example, oh, I've got a really tight chest, like, oh, what does that mean? Or like, oh, is it going to get worse? Or my heart's going really fast? Or like, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? But then when I've thought about it and I've thought back, I've thought to myself, like, it's never got worse. It's never progressed to something worse. And I think I've got a lot of comfort from knowing that it's can't get it out. It's like I feel like that what something that you said just reminded me that I get comfort from knowing that even though everything just feels really pressurized when you're in this train of thought, but it never gets worse. It's like the thoughts are always the same. It's like it's the wave and the wave and the wave and the wave and the wave. It's all doing that, like we've learned. But it's always the same. It's never different. It's always the same to me. It might be different for other people, but to me, it's like, oh, there's the same thought that I've had before, or oh, there's the same feeling I've had, and it just never it just doesn't get worse. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone, but like to me, it just
Yeah.
this whole time that I've been suffering or living with it or whatever, I've always wondered in the back of my head, like, oh, what if this gets worse, or what's going to happen in the end, and da, 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 da. But it never does get worse. Like everything's the same. Like, and I think that once you accept that these waves are just the same as everything else that pops into your brain or into your mind or whatever, I think you get a lot of comfort from that and a lot of sort of grounding, maybe. I don't know if that's the correct word to use. Yeah, I think it's more comfort. I think where I was coming from that is that something that you said was it comforts me to know that regardless of how horrendous it does feel or however thoughts that you have, it never actually gets worse. Like it doesn't. To me now, I think about like if it's anxiety related, I could have like the worst anxiety like feeling or a thought can pop into my head and I'll be like, oh, I hate that. But now when I look back, I think to myself, like, it's never got worse in the whole time that I've suffered with like anxious thoughts and things. It's always been the same. But I think the thing that's sort of fueled it has been like, oh, what if it gets worse? Or what if this like progresses into something else? But I don't think it ever has. It never has. It's never got it's never got stronger. It's always been the same. And I've only just realized that over the past couple of weeks. And I think ever since then, the more that I've accepted the fact is that it's just a wave. And they're all the same, it's the same thing. And it's never gonna get bigger. The way that like to me, the wave for the anxiety thoughts don't ever get bigger. Like I physically can't think of a time where I've thought about something previously, and then the next time that I've thought about it, it's got worse. Because it hasn't. It's just always been the same. Like, say, I can't remember. I'm not too sure. I think it might have been Wendy last week talking about not getting in a car with someone, but probably the good way to describe it actually. So say I couldn't get into a car with someone because of past experience. But to me, I don't like the way that I look at my experiences now. It can't get worse. It's just if something happens that I don't like, or if a thought or a wave comes into my head that I don't like, I somehow get comfort from knowing that it's not going to be worse than what's going on. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm just waffling on for the sake of what's in my brain. Like I'm just using my brain's just full of stuff that I've been thinking about this week. I don't know.
The thing is, what you're trying to share is an insight.
Yeah.
That's an experience. You know, so what we do is we try and describe a spiritual experience. We try and describe a consciousness manifestation, as in our reality. We try and describe this a potential from the infinite with words. And the trouble is with words is when you start pointing your consciousness at the truth of who and what we are, about life, because what you're describing there is you're describing truth. You're describing an aspect of truth. And the problem with truth is you cannot talk about it. You can't kind of speak it. There are no words to speak it. It is wordless. It is, and our intellect can't comprehend that. It's like, no, fuck that. You find the words. Find the words. No, there are no words. Anybody who has these experiences, they will tell you, I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. But all they've discovered is life. You know, they call them near-death experiences. Some people have these near-death experiences. What are they discovering? They're discovering life. The livingness of life exists before we take physical form. The livingness of life exists during physical form. The livingness of life exists after form is dropped, is left behind. But there are no words to describe it. You know, people do use things like like love, like God, like spirit, like, I don't know, I used to use the word saturation and stuff like this, but they were so kind of like, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. I can't speak about it. So when people start having these like insights and realizations, I love it when people can't get the words out. When people go, they've gone beyond their intellect capacity, yet they've actually experienced something. They've had a visceral experience of something, but their intellect hasn't got the forgive the word, the manpower to deal with it, to rationalize it, to verbalize it. So when people start spluttering around the words and trying to express something, I'm like, cool, I like that. You're closer to the truth. I'm down with that.
Did you ever notice, Dave, that people go and they look up to the right, they're trying to find the words somewhere up?
Yeah.
Like literally, people will look up to the right when you're really trying to find something in your trying to express it. You're physically, it's interesting, you know.
Looking up to the right brain. That's the more abstract, less rationalizing. Yeah, no, it's cool, Dan, but what I seem to hear you saying, if I'm hearing you right, that's the other problem with words. You know, words are a clumsy tool of communication. You know, I remember writing the word God on a board once at community group when we used to do it in person in Kendal, and 16 people were there, and I said, right, give me a number 1 to 10. 10 being you love the word God, you have no problem with God whatsoever, and 1 being you hate it. Give me your numbers. And I went round with every single number on the board. I'm a 2, I'm a 3, 7, 10, 10. I love the word God. 1, I hate the word God. You know, if one woman said, if I even knew you were going to use that word, before I came, I probably wouldn't have come. I was like, cool, that's interesting. So we literally had every single number from 1 to 10 on the board. And this girl looked at it and she went, it's true. We do see separate realities. She had a real light bulb moment through that, just through the realization that, you know, this is why people they can't hear one another, because each word. I once said somebody's hot, right? And Jenny's like, you want to have sex with them? No, I just said they were hot. No, hot means you want to have sex with somebody, Dave. Does it? No, it doesn't in my world. No, hot means they're good looking, they're pretty. That's what that means. Doesn't mean I want to go and jump into bed. I don't want to jump into bed with them. But they're just pretty. No, you said the word hot, Dave. That means you want to have sex. That's what it means. That's what it means. And I'm like, right, okay. Well, you and I see this word very differently. So we've had to negotiate our conversations, understanding. And now when we communicate, quite often what we'll say is, right, when you use that word, what does that actually mean to you? What does that actually mean to you? Because to me, it means this. All right, okay, right. Now I understand why that's happened. you think I said this, when in actual fact, then I'll find another way to talk about it. The word is a clumsy ass too. It really, really is. Really is. But I think when I'm listening to what you're describing, Dan, what you seem to be describing, if I was to sum it up in one word, one word, it's not going to be one word, it's going to be a few words. I can't even be asked to count them. It's almost like it's the very birthplace of faith. Faith in yourself. That you can deal with all that life brings. And it's interesting, you know, we human beings are a creative thing. We can create the worst case scenarios ever. And I find it so interesting that, you know, majority of humanity goes to the worst case scenario first. All gonna go to shit. It's all gonna go to shit. Oh my God, how bad can this shit actually get? When this shit really hits, how shit is it actually gonna? Fucking hell, it could be that shit. It could be that shit. It could be shitter. It could be shitter, in fact. I hadn't even thought about how shit that could have got. Oh my God. We go there. We tend to do that. Why do we have more faith? This is my question for humanity. Why do we have more faith in everything going to shit than everything turning out wonderfully? Because what I hear Dan describing is true. He's saying, no matter how frigging bad I thought it was going to get, it actually never, life doesn't actually ever, really ever seem to get that bad. We live in a world of thought. Our reality is created from thought. So it doesn't matter what's going on out there. That's neutral. What goes on out there is neutral. If it wasn't, we'd all have the same perspective of it. It has to be neutral. It hasn't got a flavor. It hasn't got what's the word? It hasn't got a kind of it hasn't got a flavor. Try and understand what I'm saying. Words. It's neutral. The world is neutral. Everything is neutral. In the eyes of oneness, in the eyes, which is all that really exists anyway, it's all neutral. It's like white light is neutral, but it is every single color conceivable and all unconceivable color. So it's like, but when you start to realize that you can, when you start to, and I often describe this conversation as a noticing, when you notice, because what Dan, you're describing, you noticed that it doesn't matter where your head goes. It generally doesn't get as bad as what you think. There was somebody who said something, I remember reading it, I forget what the hell it was, who said something along the lines of, I'm going to totally ruin this because I'm trying to remember it, but I can't. Something like, I've experienced many terrible things in this life. Now, hopefully somebody can remember what it actually is and get it right. I've experienced many terrible things in this life, but none of them actually happened. Wendy,
Something like that. Like I've experienced many. Uh, I've I've experienced many terrible things in this life, and some of them actually happened. You know, something along those lines. I think it was Mark Twain or something like that. You know, yeah, that our imagination far exceeds what's actually happened.
yeah, yeah,
And to Dan's point, what Dan said is just recalling to me, I hadn't thought about before now, but one of the things I say to people that I teach these to, or I'm coaching, whatever the right word is that you want to use, is, you know, if you could look back over the last, say, 2 months, 6 months, and take a list of all the things that you've worried about, and then go back over the list and say, what's actually happened that you worried about? And I don't know about you, but for me, I mean, precious little of what if we're given, whatever, a refrigerator size box of worry coins that we get to spend over our whole lives, I've probably spent them all down and I'm still here. But the interesting thing is none of them have actually manifested as, well, I'm glad I worried about that because I figured that out before it hit the fan. Like it just doesn't happen. This is so interesting. This
Yeah,
is
I
so
remember there's a lady, Jen will probably know who it was. Jen, do you want to say anything, by the way? Just shout when you do. I remember one of I'm sure it was our friend from South Africa. She had this little thing, a little Snoopy snippet, and it was the boy of Snoopy. Who was the boy?
Linus?
That'll do.
Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown?
That sounds better. Charlie Brown's really stressing about his exam. Really, really worried about his exam. Oh, I haven't done well. I haven't done well. Gets his exam. He's got an A. And Snoopy looks at him and goes, "Well, that was a waste of a good worry."
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
No, but what a gift, though.
How many worries have actually been useful? It's just, yeah, however you want to word it. So interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting.
And we almost feel like it's protecting us. Like if you worry, you're preparing yourself for the worst. It's like we had a client, and this client said, she said she saw her child. She went up. He wasn't feeling very well. He was scared he was going to be sick at school, and she went upstairs because he was crying. And she was like, "Are you all right?" And he went, "No." She's like, "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" He said, "Oh, I'm getting ready to be upset tomorrow." And she said, I just looked at him and I burst out laughing. But she saw herself in this kid. Like, how it looked ridiculous what this kid was doing. Why would you do that? And she said, and even at that point, the kid started to laugh himself. She said, why would you do that? But then she looked at herself and realized how much she did that. How much time do we spend worrying about tomorrow? How am I going to be? No, I'll worry about this now. The problem with worry is it's based entirely in the illusion. You cannot get further into the illusion, more lost in the illusion than the experience of worry. Because it's based in the future. All worry is based on an imagined future.
Future.
Worry and future go hand in hand. There is no future to worry about. It doesn't exist. It's impossible to worry about the future. It is impossible to worry about the future. You cannot worry about the future. It is absolutely impossible. Nobody's ever worried about the future because it doesn't exist to worry about. We live in the eternal now. There never has been a future.
I've just got to say, worry is like worrying about our thinking about the future.
What worry is? The
Yeah.
thought, the scary thought that we're dreaming up in the now.
Yeah.
Afraid of it. We're afraid of this scary thought. And what do? We place thoughts on things. That's how we identify everything. Watch, jumper, mug, phone. We place thoughts on things. That's what identification is. And then we start placing thoughts on the future and the past, time, and it creates suffering. It's because we are out of alignment with the true nature of life, the now. And I think that's another thing you're experiencing, Dan. You're experiencing more presence in life. Even in the anxiety, you're present with it and you're like, oh, I can see that there's this aspect of you observing the anxiety and going, well, that's interesting. It's that aspect of ourself that sees beyond. People meditate for years trying to see beyond the ego, but they don't even know what the ego is. To see beyond. The ego is a ball of thoughts. It's our ideas. It's our belief system. The ego and the belief system are the same thing. It's an identity created from story. And I feel like the moment I saw that personally, my experience, the moment I saw it was all thought, I experienced death. And it was the dying of a version of myself that I created. It literally died, and I never experienced it again. It was a man who just suffered deeply. And I stood there as a totally bewildered, love-filled man. Because to see past the ego isn't difficult. It becomes difficult when you think you have to do it. The thing that thinks it has to do it is a belief. Well, that's a creation, that's too late. That belief really has no power. It's the creator who has the power. It's the creator who has the power to create the experience. It's the creator that has the power to create the belief. And this is where all the power lies. The power lies in who and what we are. The power doesn't lie in the thoughts. People are trying to get rid of their thoughts. You don't need to get rid of thoughts. Thoughts have no power. How many thoughts have you had that you've never acted upon? God knows how many. They have no power. If they had power, you'd have to act on them. They'd be programming you. They'd be doing their thing. But we have all these thoughts that we don't act upon. You know, like people stood on a high building. You know, oh, jump, 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 jump. I can just jump. I get that. Imagine jumping, but I don't jump. Why don't I jump? Because that thought really doesn't actually have any power. It's a thought. There seems to be a higher power than the thought. That is discerning. That discerns whether or not it's going to jump. You know, people quit smoking and they're like, I really want a cigarette. But they don't have one. All kinds of things. No, I like that, Dan. I like it. Anybody else want to share anything?
My worry is probably being alone. I hate being alone. Like, I'm in the middle of trying to get supported living, but I've been lodging for so long, and the thought of living on my own is so scary. And I just can't get over that scary thought.
Do you know what it is?
No.
You just said it.
The thought.
That's the thing you're actually worried about. That's the actual thing you're scared of. Because, and let me break that down. Let me break this down. Try and make this as simple as I possibly can. Is it happening now? I mean, as in, are you in what is it? Sheltered living? Did you say, love?
Supported living?
Are you in supported living right now?
No.
So that's not happening. Okay. Are you on your own right now?
No.
So that's not happening either. So right here, right now, in actual alignment with what's actually happening, neither of those things are actually taking place.
Yeah.
So what are you actually experiencing?
Oh, it's the thought, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's all that ever was.
Yeah.
That's all that ever actually was. So when it comes to it, you see, nothing's happening, but we can dream ourselves into all kinds of ridiculous kind of tangles. When we start to realize that the only thing we're ever experiencing is a thought, it's thought, the power of thought, the power of thought. when you start to realize this is what we're experiencing, the power of thought, you start to have those moments where you're like, bloody hell, you know, I don't like the idea of living on my own in this kind of, I've forgotten the word again, in what kind of accommodation? What is it?
In supported living.
No, I was once in America and we're talking about dementia. I could not remember the word dementia. I was having this conversation with this woman. She was like, Dave, are you taking the piss? Like, I would not remember the word dementia. It just wouldn't come. It just wouldn't come. And but if you look closely, what you'll realize, what you can see, what I hope you'll start to see is you have created an impression within your mind. You've created what looks to be a very scary thought to you. You see, so it's impossible to be afraid of living in supported living. It's impossible because you're not there. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. It's not happening. The only thing that's happening is you've created an impression of what it looks like, and you think that thought's the truth. You think that's the true reality of what it's actually going to be like. I guarantee you now, it will not be anything like what you think it is.
Yeah.
Guarantee it. It never is. It never shows up like our deepest worries.
Mm.
It just doesn't. It's impossible to be afraid of it because it doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the power of thought in the moment and its capacity to create an experience. So you are literally using your infinite power of thought and creating a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
That's all that's happening. You're not broken.
No.
You can't be broken because if you were broken, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
If you were broken, you couldn't create depression, anxiety, worry, any of those things. Joy, contentment, fulfillment, peace. You couldn't create any of those things, but we can all create those experiences.
Mm.
When we start to see it and start to realize what we're doing to ourselves, you realize it's not, you see, to say it's coming from the sheltered living, oh God, I've done it again, the supported living, is saying that something outside of you can create a feeling. Well, nothing outside of you can create a feeling. It's impossible. Nothing outside of you can create a feeling. Our feelings are created from how we perceive something.
Mm.
They're a perspective of our feelings are a reflection of the perspective we hold on any given subject. Say that one more time. Our feelings are a reflection of the perspective that we hold on any given subject. That perspective is how we think about things.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to fix, there's nothing to get rid of. You don't need to get rid of that thought. Dan doesn't get rid of his thoughts of anxiety.
Mm.
He just goes, oh, that's interesting. Ah, what I have noticed about going through these experiences is that it never gets as bad as what I think it's going to.
I'd put money on it. I'm not a betting person, but I would put money on it.
Me too, mate. I don't know. You don't even know it's going to happen, by the way.
Mm.
You might not even end up there. I don't know. Life is a mad old game.
Very true.
I remember a lad came to work with us, young lad. So stressed out with his GCSEs. So stressed out. Like when I sit them next year, next May, June, whatever the hell it was. This was 2019. 2019. When I sit them next June, oh, it's going to be horrific. One of the things we said to him is, you might not even sit them next year. There is that possibility. You cannot guarantee you're going to sit them. And he said, well, do you not think I'm going to sit them? I was like, well, most likely you probably are going to sit them, but you have no idea of what your experience is actually going to be in that moment. You cannot know how you're going to be in the moment. You cannot know how you're going to show up in that actual moment in your life. You can never know that. That will always be an unknown. Anyway, COVID hit. He did not sit his GCSEs. He did not sit his GCSEs that year. So we don't know anything about the future. The future is infinite potentials. There isn't just one laid out future for all of us. We're creating the future in the now. We're creating our timeline of future in the now. By decisions we make, by what we believe, we're laying out the future in front of us now, because the future doesn't exist. But everything we do in the now, if I was to go out now and really fuck somebody up, I would be lining myself up most likely for a pretty hectic period of time to come. But because I've chosen not to do that with my life anymore, it means that I can pretty much safely assume that I'm going to have a nice ride for the next little while. Don't have anything to apologize for. I don't have anybody to make up to or anything like that. I just try and use my mind to create a beautiful now. And as long as what's that Sanskrit poem? I don't want to ruin it, so I'm going to read it. So I've got the slowest phone on the planet. Here it is. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the varieties and realities of your existence. The bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salutation to the dawn. Look to this day. Notice the present moment where you are. Look to this day. Look to here and now. For it is life. The now is life itself. The very life of life. The very livingness of existence. You are alive. What does that even mean? What is it to be alive? What is life? What is life? What is this thing we take for granted? What is this thing we've learnt to become afraid of? What is this thing which we get to experience all these different existences in? The infinite experiences of self. What is life? In its brief course today lie all the varieties and realities of your existence. How many experiences have we gone through today? Has there been moments where we've been upset? Has there been moments when we've been joyous? Has there been moments when we felt afraid? Look at them come and go. Watch them come and go. Notice they come and go. They're not permanent. They never have you. They never have you. They can't have you. You were that created them. You were that created the experience. The experience can't have the creator. The mug can't have the potter. The potter could churn that bit of clay up and turn it into something else. But the mug couldn't turn the potter into something else. The bliss of growth. Every day we are learning. Every day we get to notice. I've heard Wendy speak today. I just noticed this. Dan said, I noticed that. Every day is a learning opportunity. Every day we get to learn from experience. The glory of action. What do you want to do today? What do you want to do whilst you are here on earth? You are not here forever. You are going to go home. What do you want to do whilst you are here on earth? What makes your heart sing? What are you not doing that you really feel inspired to do? Do it. Go do it. When you get to the end of your life, you're not going to regret all the things that you're not going to regret not having enough money. You're not going to regret anything like that. You're going to regret not fulfilling your heart. You're going to get to the end. We're going to get to the end and we're going to look back and go, is what I did I make the most of my beautiful life here on earth? The things we're going to take with us will be our memories. We won't take our possessions. We won't take our tax bills. We won't take all the bullshit system bullshit. Got to learn. We've got to be the people who stand up and start to live from our hearts. Enjoy our lives. Make the most of it. We're not here forever. We go home. It's a brave person who stands up and starts to live from their heart, because they have to unshackle themselves from their beliefs. And that's the only thing they're unshackling themselves from, their own beliefs. People think they unshackle themselves from the system, from the matrix, as they call it. The matrix exists within our mind. It is a belief. It has no power. We're the ones with the power. We're the ones that believe the matrix into existence. It doesn't exist. It's a thought system. It's a system of thought. It has no power. That's why people can realize their way out of it and go, oh, fuck that, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to live my own life. I'm selling my house, I'm going traveling. I'm not saying that's what anybody needs to do, but that's what people do. Selling my house, I'm going to go traveling. How are you going to survive? I don't know, but I will, and they do. Glory of action. The splendor of beauty. The beauty in us. The beauty in other people. The beauty all around us, everything. The beauty in the person who upsets us. The kind actions they carry out that we don't pay attention to. The beauty that we are, beyond our story that we think is important, the story of our suffering and our pain, the beauty that lies at our heart, all the kind things we do. Notice the beauty in life. Where we focus our attention, we will have an experience. If we decide we want to start seeing more beauty in this world, we have to focus our attention there. For yesterday is but a dream. Yesterday is just a ball of thoughts. And tomorrow is only a vision. Tomorrow is a thought that we are creating within our mind. Something we're seeing within our mind that we're dreaming up. But today well lived. Today, a day lived well, an enjoyable day. I had a good day today. Means that tomorrow we'll look back at it and go, it was a nice day. Makes every yesterday a dream of happiness. And every tomorrow a vision of hope. I can have another one of them. I had a nice day today. I used to think when I really struggled in my life, if I ever had a nice like day, I thought I was really malfunctioning. I thought, wow, there's something really fucked up with Dave. Now I'm really fucked up. I actually feel happiness. That's what I used to think. Mental. And every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Look well upon it. Try and notice the beauty in it. Realize when you're going and driving yourself mad with your own thoughts. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do it. You take your attention away from thoughts, they will disappear. Such is a salutation to the dawn. The only thing that worry is us being afraid of our own thoughts. It's not the future. Can't be. It doesn't exist. We're like an artist who painted a picture, became afraid of it. We thought it was real. Like an artist who took a blank canvas and painted a harrowing scene and then became so afraid of what they painted. They went into retreat and they looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. And as they looked, they painted more harrowing. Oh, there's more harrowing coming because you're painting it. Stop painting it. It's a blank canvas. You can paint anything you so wish. Wake up and realize that's true. What are people hearing? Joseph, is there anything that's been useful for you?
All of it. I want to go as far as I am now without it. You know, holidays, work, normal stuff. But you're saying we're forgetting names. Who's the main man of again? Who's the main man of the three principles?
Oh, Sydney Banks.
Yeah, he said just act ordinary. A few years ago, I started acting ordinary and just doing normal things. That's it. I have my prep talks with you sometimes, but then I'm back on the tracks and that's it. Don't believe it. It's bullshit. That's all I can think of right now.
I love it.
Simple.
Just being
Stupid.
Hey?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. Oh, I need a title.
Don't complicate it. I've done it. Everybody's done it.
Title for this one.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that point about being ordinary, you know, in a world full of people trying to be extraordinary, somebody who just shows up ordinary shines like a bloody beacon. and the power that that holds to help transform another human being's life. When they can relax, be around somebody who is just comfortable in themselves. I'm all right as I am. I'm cool as I am. Thank you. You know, that's all anybody ever wants, is just to feel comfortable in their own skin. So yeah, just showing up ordinary, just being that ordinary self, is just being you. All the tassels and bells and whistles, all the bullshits, I need to be this in order to be that, and just showing up. It's the most powerful state we can be in. You will attract to you the people who like you for who you are. And you won't have to put the facade on and be the somebody who you're not in order to hold friendships down. It becomes very complicated and hard work. Or relationships in any way. Showing up as you are, being that ordinary human being, is so simply simple. Life is so simple. Love you, Wend. God bless, love. Yeah, it's so simple. I often say this to the kids, my nieces and nephews. I'm like, stop trying to pretend to be somebody you're not. They're too young. Maybe some of them are starting to realize this is true. So, but you pretend to be somebody you're not, you're going to attract the wrong people. You're going to attract the people who love the pretend version of you. And they won't be fulfilling friends, because you really won't resonate with them. But if you're just yourself, you will attract the people who love you, who like you for who you are, who respect who you are, and you will resonate with them. And you will make good friends. So no, it's wonderful, wonderful words, Joseph. I love it. Awesome. Haley May, you still there, love?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Anything you've heard tonight that's been useful?
Again, all of it, to be fair. Yeah, it takes, like, after the call, it usually takes me a long time to process it all. But yeah, it does really help. These calls really do get me through. So
Cool.
yeah, I appreciate it.
No, Haley, we appreciate you turning up. Thank you. It's very much a two-way thing. It's very much a mutual thing. But yeah, that's another interesting point, you know. It's more often than not when you're just going about your everyday life that something starts to make sense.
Yeah.
That's what Dave was saying. That's what Jen was saying. That's what they were saying. That person was saying, or that's what I read, or that's what in that bit of writing, that song, anything, you know, that's what they were talking about. You know, and then you start to see this, and it's more often than not in these conversations when people have insight. It's when they're just minding their own business. That's when the proof of the pudding starts to be shown, and I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, Haley. I really, really appreciate it, love.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's why we try and do these every week, just to keep the momentum up. And yeah, Dave, anything come up for you, mate? Anything for you? Anything that's been useful for you this call?
I think just the peace is lovely. Thank you. It's great. It's centering, because it's been a day of stuff. So to come to this point in the evening with where I am in the evening with a centering into truth. It's like there's a scene in a movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey where very slowly this space vehicle comes down to land on the moon base to beautiful music, Richard Strauss waltz. And it just gently lands, and it's in perfect time with the music. I will leave you with that vision.
That's
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. But it's also nice to know that we haven't done that. You did that, you know, and I can't do that. I can't do that for anybody. Other people could listen to this call and be so frustrated and angry with me for what I'm saying. It can't be coming from me. I have people who will argue with me about, well, that's not true. That's not true.
I know.
They'll get themselves all in the fluster. So it can't be what I'm saying that's doing this. It has to be coming from inside yourself.
Mm.
And it's just such a nice thing to know that, well, if that's true, that opportunity is available at any time, in
Yeah.
any circumstance.
Yeah, preloaded. It's in there. Yeah.
Just yeah, exactly, man, exactly that. Thanks, Dave.
I'm going to sign out now.
God bless, man. Loads of love.
Bless you
We'll
all.
call it a night. We'll call it a night. I just want to say, if anybody's watching on Catch Up and you wish to make a donation, you found this useful, please share it with your friends. You know, we want people to get access to this. This is why we do it via donation. We want to make this available to anyone. One of my friends said to me, he said, but why don't you charge for it? I said, well, we just ask for donations because we trust that people are good, you know, and if they hear something, we also know that good people don't donate. But it's like, and I said to him, but do you know what? If a millionaire heard something, it changed their life and they didn't donate, it's still worth it. We want this to be available to people. We want this to be available to people. So please, if you've got friends who you think this may help, pass it on. And if they want to get in touch with us, they can. The contact details are below in the description. And if people do want to make a donation, you can do it by PayPal, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Or if you want to make we had a lady set up a monthly thing recently, like she wanted to pay us X amount each month as a donation. And she wanted our bank details. Just drop us an email, get in touch with the bank. If you want to make a bank transfer donation, get in touch with us, info@freedomthinking.co.uk, or on our website is my telephone number. You can contact us via that. But yeah, we do it via donation just to make it accessible to people. And we hope you enjoy it. And we hope you find benefit. We enjoy doing it. We enjoy doing this. This started in 2014. So it's 11 years this has been going now. And I say, you know, there hasn't been a single day where nobody's shown up. So it's been, no, Sam, love you, love. It's been so worth it. It really has. It's been a fun ride. It's had its ups and its downs for me, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Right, I'm going to leave you all online. God bless everyone. Loads of love.